greater. So again, Agatha Domond, super excited to be here with you guys and just being part of the Beyond the Executive Table Virtual Summit. We love and appreciate all the speakers so far. As I mentioned, myself, and then you have Giovanni Gonzalez coming up talking about corporate relationships, right? Going from being a boss to really being a leader. So today, for my talk, we're going to talk about how do you really begin again. So we've had a lot of information, a lot of things that's shared with us, but sometimes life can get in the way. Life can actually make it harder for you to step into all this greatness, right? Step into that beautiful relationship that Lakeisha mentioned. Step into the greatness that you're called to lead, as Ola mentioned, doing the healing work. Sometimes life can really take a hit. So before we go into that, a little bit about me. I am a wife, a mom of two super amazing, I said human beings, right? Two beautiful babies. I am a minister, love sharing that I am a proud Haitian immigrant. Both of my parents are from Haiti. Had us in the Bahamas, came here to the States. I share that because I am here only because after the grace of God, my mom and my dad, right? Nothing I could have accomplished would have brought me here if it wasn't for their hard work, them taking embarrassment, them taking hits and setbacks to allow us to be here. So I give them honor, and both my parents have passed away, but I just honor and respect everything they poured into me and my siblings. So over the past 10 years, I do have a corporate background doing sales and marketing in Intercontinental Miami, and recently senior technical project manager at AT&T. I am a certified John Maxwell speaker and trainer. We share that because the work that we do and the training that it takes inside of our coaching programs, how we work with our clients, investing in ourselves, it speaks volumes. And I know a lot of business owners, a lot of individuals, you guys are also John Maxwell certified, and you know the kind of work that it takes when you're talking about relationships and leadership. So also the amazing author of Breakthrough on the Journey. I was fortunate enough to work with Dr. Sade Wayadu on my first book collaboration, along with some phenomenal authors. So that is where the author part of it came from. And I am the CEO and founder of Domond Leadership Institute, where we work with coaches and speakers to really build their confidence, see themselves as executives, and build a profitable business. So we put that word profitable in there because we know there is a difference. So that's what we do at Domond Leadership. One of my favorite mentors in my head from afar, Dr. Tony Evans, says, God is more interested in your development than your arrival. God is more interested in your development than your arrival. So that's where our conversation is stemming from today, looking at your personal development as a man, as a woman in leadership. And you could be leading inside of corporate, ministry, your own business, your own family, in your communities. So God is more interested in your development, not the title that you carry or what you do, but also how you grow and steward that role. When you think about the life you're living and the legacy you're leaving, what words come to mind? I know we have the workbooks coming up. If you haven't had a copy of that, we want you to go ahead and jot these things down, right? This part of the summit, as you listen to the speakers and we talk, trust me, as I'm on this side and when I'm on the other side, no matter if I'm in corporate America or behind the pulpit, I would always suggest and encourage people, take your pen, take your paper and write these things down, because that once you hear it and you step away from it, you won't remember it, right? Between mommy, come do this, I need this, honey, can you go cook dinner? Where's the report? All the questions that you ask bombarded throughout the day. So grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, grab a Post-it, right? So you can really engage and participate. When you think about the life you are living and the legacy you are leaving, what words come to mind? As you jot that on your workbook, go ahead and drop it in the comments. When you think about the life you are living and the legacy you are leaving, what words come to mind? Write that for me in the comment. I want to see your thoughts. I want to have some engagement to see what you're saying. I'll refresh my screen, make sure I'm not missing it. All right. Drop those in. I'll give you a couple of seconds to drop those in. For myself, when I thought about this, and as I do the work, and those words change and they evolve, right? Love, stewardship, leadership, beauty, courageous, industrious. I want to see some of your words, ladies and gentlemen. Put those across the screen for me. When you think about the life and the legacy, what word comes to mind? And think about that. Think about all the work you're doing to build this life, all the work you're doing to improve yourself. When that day comes and someone is standing, as sober as it sounds, to say your eulogy, what are the words that you want them to share with your loved ones? What are the words you want them to share as it relates to the impact you had on their life? So write what it is, what you know it to be right now as accurate, and also write the words that you are growing into. One of the words I'm growing into, as you see on the screen, is courageous. There's a difference between being bold and confident and being courageous. For me, what I've learned over the recent years is that courage is when I'm being stretched, when I'm being pulled. That love, that word manifests not when things are rosy and beautiful, but it manifests in those hard times, in those disappointments. So as we talk about the courage to begin again, you have an opportunity to define what your again looks like. What words are associated with your legacy? What words are associated with you? So go ahead and write that down in your comments if you're inside of the group, and also write that down on your workbook. So how do you get there? How do you get from the hurt, the disappointment, to living a life that exemplifies love, that you're living a life that's courageous? And that's going to look different for each and every one of us. It's going to look different from your 20-year-old self, your 30-year-old self, your 70-year-old self. And one thing I can tell you from my own experience is those words, those values, that greater, it manifests bigger than what I can ever imagine. Recently, I found myself, when I say recently, in the past 4 or 5 years, I found myself having to rebuild, having to look at the life that I had created, the life that I was living, to really say, wow, is this where I am right now? God had blessed me tremendously with parents that are encouraging, supportive, and we went after our dreams. We did the degrees. We stayed at the feet of God, right? We stayed in ministry. We loved family. I found myself inside of a marriage that turned verbally and emotionally abusive. Going into 8 years, 9 years in, I found myself in a situation where I was just literally holding on. Have you ever been there? That you are just holding on, and you're like, words like love, courageous, were they part of my living experience at that moment? Were they part of my legacy at that moment? They were, because that's how I was raised. But after experiencing hurt, disappointment, that changed for me. 2016, our family took a real hard loss. I'm not going to say my favorite brother, because I have other brothers on here, but my closest brother growing up, because him and I shared a room. And we in a family of Domonds where everybody's an extrovert, literally. My dad, myself, and Josh were like the only standing introverts. So Josh and I had a special bond. We share the same humor, same disposition like our dad, and we shared a room together. So you can imagine growing up as a girl with your brother in the room and sharing not just the room, but literally a mattress on the floor. So when I tell you Josh and I were close, Josh and I were close. And even as we grew up to be adults, Josh and I would take cruises together. In Miami, you had the opportunity to do like 4-hour cruises where you just go out, hang, dance, party, you know, all that wonderful stuff you do before responsibility hits. So, and as I moved and we started he started his own family, and I was here in Georgia, still single, building and working in corporate. Josh would be the brother that I can call and he'll give me the gut, honest truth, right? I remember having an event, no one showed up, and I was so hurt, so disappointed. And I'm like, man, I'm not calling Josh, because Josh will go into, well, what did you do? Did you call enough people? Did you, you know, he's not the touchy-feely automatic brother, right? He'll love you through it, but he's not the touchy-feely one. 2016, I was home, and one of my younger brothers, right, called, and it was the middle of the night. He's like, hey, I'm coming to your house. I'm thinking, okay. But this particular brother, he has the keys and the passwords to everything, right? Literally knows where everything is. So for him to call me in the middle of the night to say he's coming to my house was kind of weird. I'm like, oh, okay. Because use your keys, show up, do what you need to do. That's our relationship. Few minutes passed and I get another call. He's like, hey, I'm almost to your house. I'm like, are you all right? Did you need something? He's like, no, I'm coming to your house. I said, okay. Opened the door, went downstairs. Actually, I didn't open the door. I was still in the room, and I saw my brother walk up. I saw Emmanuel walked up. Then I saw my nephew that I helped raise next to him. So I knew something was wrong. So if I'm looking at my brother and I'm looking at my nephew, my first thing was, where's your sister? Right? Asking for my niece. And I hear her voice downstairs. So I just knew, like, this couldn't be good. Went downstairs, and Emmanuel shared that Josh had passed. I'm like, what do you mean? He's in a hospital? He's like, no, Josh passed. That didn't resonate. And some days it still doesn't resonate. So that was in September 2016. Dealt with that, held on through that, prayed through that, and still trying to operate as a leader, trying to be courageous, operating in love, but I'm wounded and I'm hurt and I miss my brother. 2 years later, 2018, my baby brother passes away unexpectedly. Now, if you know me, if you know our family, we're all close. Can I say Mike was my favorite? I won't, because again, Mike was my first godson, right? My first godchild. Mike was my first baby, right? My practice baby. Mike was his thing was, because I was still single and everybody was already married, his commitment to me was, Aggie, I'll go ahead and you and I can live together and we'll raise cats together. I'm like, Mike, I'm not raising cats with you, but that's how close we were, right? So when 2018 came around and I received the news that Mike had passed, I was just, whatever little hope I was holding on to, just devastated me. Showing up, having to not only bury one, but then two brothers. And I remember just losing it. Not being able to stand, not being able to talk, because I could not imagine the God that I served after everything that we tried to do, try to be, that these are the hits, these are the losses that we can't really build or get away from. A month later, my oldest brother passed. And I'm not sharing this with you to just tell you about the losses. I'm telling you, when you're talking about rebuilding after hurt and disappointment, it's a choice. It's not an easy choice. It's not a God, I love you and I follow you anyhow choice, because those were not the words coming out of my mouth during those years. And did I mention over this time period the chaos that turned into my marriage? What I realized going into 2019, that if I had any hope of saving myself, any hope of raising my beautiful babies, any hope of keeping myself sane, I had to believe for greater. I had to learn to trust God again. Because as a God girl, every blessing, every hurt, he either ordains, orchestrates, or allows. So every pain, every hurt, I will go to him. So as God continued to restore my heart, restore my marriage, help me to live and process the grief, I had to do the internal work and the external work of building my life. So this is why I share this with you. No matter where you are, no matter what you've endured, those words you wrote down, they're still possible. So how do you get there? How do you get from the hurt, the disappointment, the anger to a place that's greater? Number one, you need to heal. Acknowledge where you are in your life and how you got there, the good and the bad, and seek support. Support that comforts you and support that stretches you. After burying Mike, if I didn't go into counseling, the anger, the hurt would have taken over my life. It would have taken over my relationships. So as you look at your life right now, what do you need to heal from? And the same part of that healing, I had individuals, family, and friends that loved me enough to stretch me. When I say stretch me, okay, we'll give you grace. We know what you're going through. How can we support you? Right? How can we help you? So in order to go to that next place, to greater, to rebuild after hurt, you need to heal, number one. Number two, know that you're purposed. Understand when detours and setbacks occur, they don't annihilate your God-given destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear me real clearly and softly. I will take a breath. This number two, knowing that you have purpose and that the pains and the hurts and the disappointments of your life does not annihilate, erase what God has purposed you to do. Don't say that to yourself, and don't allow anyone to say it to you. Because you'll hear the stories. Wow, she suffers with clinical depression. Wow. She hasn't been married yet? Like, what's wrong with her? Wow, she's on her second or third divorce? Wow, they lost their house. Her son's been hurt. Her daughter is this and her. You will hear it from every angle. And what the individuals, the environment, our culture, our society would do is bombard you with these words and these labels to help you go deeper into a negative place. But for you to get from that hurt to a place that's greater, you need to know and understand that you were purposed for more. That there's no setback, there's no divorce, there's no bankruptcy, that nothing will eliminate the calling that God has on your life. I want you to get that, and I want you to get that clearly, because the next 2 days won't have an effect for you if you don't really believe that you're purposed for more. No amount of conferences, summits, coaching can help you until you believe for yourself that I'm not defined by those situations. I'm not defined by that moment in time. I'm defined by who the Creator says I am. And just so that we're clear, the Creator is God. Okay? So I'm defined by who He calls me to be. Number three, you have to be determined. Pray, rejoice, affirmations, all that is wonderful. But you have to believe for greater for yourself and begin to take action on the hopes and the dreams and the aspirations that you had, believing that God can, trusting that God can. That's a determination. So how do you get there? How do you get to greater? You heal, you understand your purpose, and you become determined in your action. Believing that God can and He will do it for you. That was one of the biggest things as I went through the troubles in my marriage, and God is restoring us. So we praise Him for that. I didn't believe God for greater for me because I took too much hurt, too much loss, buried one too many brothers. I didn't trust God. I know that's hard to hear and that's hard to understand. You could get to a point in your life where do you even trust for yourself? So don't just wash over it or gloss over it. No, go deep into that and talk to your Heavenly Father. Talk to counseling. Do the inside internal work that's necessary to really heal. Tap into your purpose and then get into action. Because knowing that you're purpose for more, knowing that you have hopes and dreams, but you're literally not doing anything, right? We're going to love you strong. We're going to love you and encourage you, but we're going to support you and stretch you, right? That's the sisterhood that we have. That's what we're called as leaders. That's what we called as coaches, to really stretch you out of that place of conformity, to stretch you out of that place of normalcy, of compliance, of dormancy. And I know it hurts. I'm not saying any of these things as though it just woke up and, oh, no, that wasn't my reality. I don't know if that's your reality. It's going to take time. It's going to take years, moments, weeks, tears. But guess what? If you're determined, you will get there. You will get to your greater. And when we think about greater, I want you to look at the 4 quadrants of your life: self, faith, family, and finances. At Beyond the Executive Table, we go deeper into our masterminds on these 4 areas, because building a business, getting to 6 figures in corporate America, establishing a ministry, doing a nonprofit, all of that is great. However, if the other aspects of your life are in jeopardy or not intact, again, think about those words you wrote down of how you're living and the legacy you're leaving behind. Love, acceptance is great when we think about our families. What finances? How are we taking care of the generation and to come? Our children's children. When we build and we go into work, we go into these passions, how are we doing it? Are we doing it from a place of wholeness, that self peace? Are we connected to our source, that faith piece? Are we looking into our family? And our families are not just bloodline, but it's the women that are connected with you on your teams in corporate America. It's the other women that are with you in your masterminds, women and men that you coach, right? Those, your family, your community, and also your finances. Think about those 4 areas and see, do you have success in that? And how do you get that in your life? The difference between the woman that is walking in victory and the woman that is stuck in her circumstance is her perspective. Coach Lakeisha talked about, how do you perceive yourself? Your perspective and how you see yourself. So when you're looking from the outside looking in at someone else, and you wonder, well, how are they doing these things? It's how they see their life experiences. The difference between the woman that is walking in victory and the woman that is stuck in her circumstance is her perspective. I had a couple of pictures that I wanted to share because as I was going through the hurt and the pain, my life didn't look like that, right? I wrote a book throughout this process. I coached clients. I had corporate clients during that time. I was raising 2 beautiful, amazing children. I was teaching on the pulpit. You would have never known what I was going through or dealing with on the outside of that. But I knew I had to continuously put one foot in front of the other. So I want to encourage you today, as you look at your life, instead of comparing it to someone else, say, how do I see myself? How do I see myself in this situation? And how do I get to my next? Release the guilt and get the support in the 4 quadrants. Get the support that you need, forgiving yourself, releasing yourself of the guilt. Because if it occurred, whatever part you played in it, or you didn't play in it, Release the guilt, forgive yourself from that, heal from that, and get the support that you need. So if you know you're doing life right now and you're looking to get advancement, you're building your leadership, but it's not going anywhere, don't just sit in a silo. Get the help that you need. We would love for it to be within the Domond Leadership Institute, but get help. You have some phenomenal speakers that are coming across and talking to you over these next 3 days. See what areas you're needing support in. And I'll just put a caveat in there because that is part of my life story. Getting help from a clinician, getting help from a psychiatrist, psychologist, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the support that you need, then do that. Invest in yourself. Take time to take care of yourself. And the last thing, how do you get there? How do you go from that pain to greater? Change your circle. I could put a disclaimer, but if you're stuck, if you're in a rut, if you're not motivated, if you're comparing, if you're being criticized, change your circle. Change your circle for greater and go where you are stretched and celebrated, because we exist. Once we do the healing, that space of being celebrated and encouraged, it exists. So if you see you're surrounded by those that are not soaring or leaping for more, change your circle. As women, take charge of your future. Take charge of your own greater. And if that requires you to change your circle, do that. And go find a place where you are stretched and celebrated. I want to thank you again for your time, for joining the summit, for listening throughout the presentations. I really hope this word encouraged you, but more than just encouraged you, motivated you, that it forces you to look deep within yourself to say, okay, I'm responsible for my greater. What am I doing to ensure that I get there? And I don't get a pass because of what I've been through. I acknowledge the hurt, the pain, the tears, the disappointment, but I'm choosing to heal. I'm choosing to believe that I was purposed for more.